It's Safika binti Adnan. Today I am representing my team to present our research study entitled Plants Diversity in Rubber Plantation at Segamat, Johor. First of all, the term biodiversity was first used in its long version called as biological diversity and most normally used to describe the number of species. So what is a species? A species defined as a population whose members are able to interbreed freely under the natural condition. Plants are mostly photosynthetic organisms which found in water and land, and these are multicellular. Diversity of plants allowed different species to thrive in the many varied environment of the world to bring adaptive change. Issues that are always related to plants diversity study are 94% plant species with unknown conservation status, and the threats that always occur are habitat loss, fragmentation and degradation, overexploitation, invasive species, pollution, and anthropogenic climate change. So, relationship between the rubber plantation and species diversity, they have interconnected and dependent on one another for survival. So, low species diversity in rubber plantation is due to the conversion of forest land to rubber plantation. The figure shows the Hevea brasiliensis that belongs to kingdom Plantae, family Euphorbiaceae and genus Hevea. In Malaysia, 61% of the 1.08 million hectares of areas planted with rubber tree have been abandoned due to the low price of the commodity. According to Shah 2020, 60% are owned by older smallholders. In Johor, the greatest production of Malaysia's rubber comprised 2 to 4 million acres of land and main agriculture in Segamat, while in Segamat itself, almost 3 million hectare cover of land which is important to economic growth of the community and country. So, previous study demonstrated that the conversion of forest area to rubber plantation resulted in lower plant species diversity. Recently, reports have been presented on the decline in the rubber production due to the global rubber demand. In addition to that, more plantations owned by local smallholders are being abandoned due to the lack of incentive and other reasons. Therefore, in this study, we are interested to look at how many species could thrive in a rubber plantation owned by local smallholders with different management us. We also interested to see if in the data on plant diversity indices could be useful tool to reflect on the management status of the rubber plantation. Next, move to the study area. Our research study was conducted at Segamat Johor. Here, we identified 3 rubber plantations owned by local smallholders, namely Kampung Loga, Kampung Sedih, and Kampung Jawa. All these 3 rubber plantations have different management practices. Kampung Jawa is 25 years of age and is highly managed within 2 to 3 times treatment application per week and use organic and chemical herbicide, whereas Kampung Seding is 8 years of age and low managed, which is only once in a month treatment application. However, Kampung Loga is 7 years of age and moderately have management practices. For materials and method, a total of 10 5-meter x 5-meter quadrats were randomly established at each plantation. All these sites were used to determine current population status and to characterize and classify the various types of plant species. After surveying the plant species based on the plotting area, the general observation of plants outside the plotting area were also identified to add information about list of plant species. Next step is sample collection. The specimen in a good condition and free from damage that caused by disease, rust, and insect were collected. The plants were tagged based on the locality, date, and plot. All plants within the plot were collected, pre-identified, counted, and recorded for the evaluation of species diversity and their dominant status. Hence, next step is sample preservation. The specimen were spread out between the folds of newspaper to avoid overlapping of the part. Then the specimen was transferred into a plastic bag that contains 70% ethanol. Then the sample was replaced to new newspaper and tied with a strap and pressed by using plant press. and then left to dry in the oven for the 7 days. Then next step is herbarium preparation and specimen identification. The specimen were mounted on herbarium sheets. Species identification of species was done by referring a book, apps, and also referring expert. The book that we refer are books of Peninsular Malaysia. Then we also use picture this application for record and ID species. For species confirmation, we refer Dr. Radia from University of Aceh to get confirmation of species name. Hence, all the data species recorded were tabulated in the Microsoft Excel for further statistical analysis. So, to analyze the species, we use diversity index, migrant leaf index, abundance parameter, and important value index. Result. So, the total sample collected were 2,367 individual plants that belongs to 24 families, 36 genus, and 41 species. The most dominant family are Archaeaceae, Asteraceae, and Euphorbiaceae. As shown in Table 1, the value of Shannon Index for different plantation species distribution of plant diversity at Kampung Seding was 2.73 and HMAC was 3.43. The result tabulated that the Kampung Seding had relatively high diversity of species among monocot and dicot species at H prime value approaching the HMAC value. However, Kampung Jawa was the least diverse in species, while Kampung Logah was moderately diverse. The main factor that leads the different number of species in the three locations were the different treatment and management by the owner of each plantation. For the richness index, overall, the value of richness index was 4.5. Overall, the richness of species relatively high in Kampung Seding, Kampung Logah, and Kampung Jawa. For the Evenness Index, the highest value of EH for species distribution at the rubber plantation at Segamat Johor recorded was at Kampung Seding and Kampung Logah, which is 0.79. Overall, evenness value for all plantation was 0.79. Total number of species at Kampung Seding was 31, Kampung Logah 27, and Kampung Jawa 25, while the total number of individuals in all plot, Kampung Seding is 1015, Kampung Logah 742, and Kampung Jawa 609. For the Sorensen Similarity Index, table two shows the Sorensen Similarity Index of plants species recorded at three locations of rubber plantation at Segamat Johor, and the results show similarities between the three different study sites. All the study areas of plantation were low and had the similarity within the range 0.36 to 0.49. For the important value index, as indicated by Curtis and McIntosh, the species that have value of IVI more than 10% was considered as absolute dominance. IVI was the most important ecological parameter for observing the status of species in an area. As shown in a figure, there were only one species within the absolute dominant, which were Asistasia gangetica, and followed by other species. Then, on the basis of important value, Asistasia was the most abundant species that all the species recorded as the highest number of diversity in the rubber plantation. The factor that caused this species most abundant was because all these species was rapidly fast-growing species that easily growing in moist soil. Non-native plants that threaten biodiversity and cause other environmental damage. All these species have ability to reproduce by vegetation propagation and form dense vegetation net. As a conclusion, the most dominant family are Archaeaceae, Rubiaceae, and Asteraceae. Plant diversity composition that was identified was Plant diversity composition that was identified are 41 species in 36 genera and 24 families. Overall, for all the plantation, the diversity of plants in rubber plantation at Segamat Johor relatively moderate. The age and management of plantation of rubber tree was the factor that can affect the species composition and diversity in rubber plantation at Segamat Johor. The common species was Acistaceae gangetica, Brasilia tomentosa, Ageratum conozidus, Coreomyces, and Melastoma malabatricum. Acistaceae gangetica was totally dominant for overall plot at rubber plantation at Segamat Johor, with the IVI value were 13.62%. So this is the list of references that we refer. So that's all for me. Thank you.